Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm, and you are watching fourth and final part of What If Naruto Became Juubi. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Now, wasting no more time, let's start the story.
He ran to the spot where he had felt the chakra of Izumi and Kisame. He could not only see the two Akatsuki members, but he could also feel Yagura, the Yondaime daimyo, coming toward them. As Naruto walked toward the two Akatsuki members, he thought to himself, damn it, I didn't expect him to meet them directly. If they planned to attack the rebels now at the same time, they would be killed. He could go a lot farther than Yagura because of his Jinten, and he would get to them before the Jinchuriki could reach them. He hoped very much that Izumi would choose to join him and not fight. I was able to move quickly enough to block Naruto's punch, but Naruto was moving so quickly that he couldn't turn and slid to a stop. Naruto chose to act like he didn't know that Itachi was really Izumi because he knew that Kisame didn't know. After taking a quick look at the two Nuke Nin, Naruto said, "So, we meet." Itachi-san. Itachi took a look at Naruto's new clothes. As he got closer, he saw Kisame and Izumi in her Itachi form resting by a stream that ran through the island. The blonde had chosen to be the Hokage. He thought, Jinten. Missile punch, as he sent chakra through his right arm, cocked it back, and shot at the shark. Man. Naruto was moving so fast that Izumi could barely see him coming up behind them. She was dressed in his cage robes and Hokage hat though. His skin had turned as pale as paper, and two horns stuck out of his forehead. The blonde's bright blue eyes were already in his Tengen form. There were 8 tails coming out of his tailbone behind him. Naruto. Izumi gasped when she saw that the man who had known her secret for months looked so different from how he had been. She had seen him in his base form and his tail. Beast form, but not this one. What he was giving off was more powerful than anything he had ever used on her before. So we meet again. Your Dujutsu caught me off guard the first time, but you can't be both of us, Kisame joked as he got ready to fight the Biju. From what happened in the Valley of the End, he knew that this wasn't even his final form, but he would take advantage of the blonde's lack of confidence. The 8-tailed man told the Uchiha, Itachi. San, come with me. I'll forgive your crime and give back as much as I can that day. The Uchiha looked into Naruto's eyes to see if he was telling the truth. Naruto's eyes were so pure and honest that Itachi could see them. She said, I'm sorry, but I can't take that offer. She looked a little sad. It was her desire to go with Naruto, but she couldn't because Kisame could still escape and there were people watching them. The Akatsuki would have killed her if they attacked Konoha. Naruto sighed and pulled out the Yawarai. Te. He then took a loose stance. He looked at the two Akatsuki members with cold eyes. Alright, then I'll have to use force to take you back, he said. The Hokage then rushed forward. Both of them were moving too fast to stop him, but Kisame was able to pull Samahata up and block Naruto's powerful kick, which sent Samahata flying backwards. They took out a kunai and swung it at the Juubi, but the Yawaraki. Te blocked the blow. Naruto turned his sword around and pushed Izumi's kunai out of her hand. He then charged at the Uchiha. The woman in disguise switched places with a log and came out from behind Naruto, shooting the 8-tailed Hokage with a big fireball. Naruto's tail hit the ground hard, bringing up a big wall of coral from below. When Naruto saw Kisame coming at him, he dove to avoid getting hit by the shark sword. The fishman jumped and swung his sword down at Naruto as he tried to pull Kisame's legs out from under him. The man who used to be blonde smiled as one of his tails came up and wrapped around the sword. He could feel the blade trying to take as much of his chakra as it could while it would. When Naruto's tail swung, it freed Samahata and Kisame, sending them through a tree. He felt a rush of chakra and quickly jumped away to avoid Izumi's Amaterasu's spark of black flames. It was Izumi who said, "You can't win, Naruto-kun. I won't lose like last time," as she used the Mangekyo on her right eye. After landing, Naruto shot forward at the woman Uchiha. It looked like Naruto was going to attack the Akatsuki member, but he just disappeared, leaving her confused. Naruto came back from behind her while she was still crouching before she could notice him. He made the sign of the tiger with his hands and a twisted grin on his face. When Kisame saw this, he yelled at her, "Watch out, Itachi." He used her male name to yell at her when he saw Naruto getting ready to use a jutsu. She felt time slow down when she turned around and saw Naruto smiling at her. Konohagakure hidden secret taijutsu technique, 1000 years of death. Naruto yelled as he pushed his fingers into her behind, but he got the angle wrong and hit her from a much wetter angle. There was a bright red blush all over Izumi's body as her eyes got bigger. She screamed so loudly that it hurt her ears as she flew into the water. When Kisame saw what the Hokage had done, his jaw almost hit the floor. It almost hit the floor again when he heard Izumi's girlish scream, since he still only knew her as Itachi. When Naruto saw Izumi land in the river, he laughed. Izumi's angry scream came from inside the red, orange giant torso that exploded out of the water, ending his thoughts. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't hide the fact that she was a woman from Kisame. She stood there in her Susanoo, completely wet, with bloody tears running out of the corners of her eyes and a bright pink blush still on her nose. Looking at her cloak wrapped around her curvy body, which is about the same size as Mei's chest but a little bigger. Itachi is a girl. Izumi is so beautiful. Kisame thought in shock, even though he had a light pink blush on. He could see that she was angry and ashamed on her face as she glared at Naruto, though. Naruto knew that the way Izumi was looking at him would kill him right now if looks could kill. His nerves made him ask, "Hey Izumi. Chan, are you okay?" As he jumped off of her Susanoo's swing. Her first words to the Hokage were, "Why? Why don't you? Pervert." And she charged at him right away. When the ethereal warrior hit him, he jumped over a horizontal slash and then used a Shinra Tensai to block a vertical swing. He took off into the air when he saw Izumi getting ready to stab him. "Calm down, Izumi. Chan. It was just a joke," Naruto said, but then he had to avoid another stab as the blade stretched out to hit him. By looking into her eyes, he knew they were getting really hurt, and he also knew that it was making the virus inside her spread faster. "Yusaka Magatama." She yelled as 3 Magatama joined together by a chakra string appeared in one of Susanoo's free hands. Naruto was still in the air when the energy warrior threw the attack at him. As he held out his hand, small black cone shaped balls of red and blue chakra came together. Naruto called out, "Mini Bijudama," as he fired the attack to block Izumi's attack. The explosion from the attacks that hit each other could be seen for miles, and the shockwave blew away any clouds. Enough with this, Naruto thought to himself as he disappeared and reappeared in front of Izumi's Susanoo. He was able to break through the Susanoo barrier with just one swing of Iwagakure. Te. Without any trouble. The blonde shot at Izumi and cut him in half as she came out on the other side of the Susanoo. Izumi stood still for a moment and then looked down to see where Naruto had cut her. But she wasn't hurt. She could see that her cloak was cut right through and had fallen into the water. The man was smiling at her as he looked back at Naruto. "What was that?" she asked the Hokage, who laughed lightly as he put his sword away. It was then that she saw Naruto throw some kind of golden dust at her while he swung his sword. "You were cut by the Iwagakure. Te and didn't get hurt. This proves that you are a good person, just like I thought. Now rest," Naruto told Izumi as her vision got blurrier and her body relaxed. The pollen knocked her out, and the Hokage caught her. He made a copy of her to take care of her, then turned to Kisame, who was ready to fight again. Naruto glared at the shark man and said, "I don't feel like messing around with Kisame, so I'll get right to the point. I need to take care of Izumi. Chan, and you don't want to die. Leave now, or I'll kill you." The shark man drew his sword while sweating from the pressure Naruto was putting on him. "It doesn't matter who or what you are. I'll shave you off like everyone else." Kisame yelled as he charged at the man while 8 tails whipped behind him. In the middle of Samahada's swing, Naruto caught him with one of his tails. He felt the sword quickly consuming his chakra, but it felt like it was just taking large amounts of water. Naruto threw Kisame into the air with a flick of the tail. When Kisame looked down, he saw Naruto raise his left hand and charge up another Bijudama. When the Hokage attacked him, Kisame thought, "Shit." The former Kiri Nin blocked the attack with his sword and absorbed most of the chakra. But Samahada wasn't quick enough, and the sphere of destruction blew up with the chakra that was still left in it. When the smoke cleared, Kisame was seen, his cloak torn apart and light burns all over his body. Before he could do anything, Naruto jumped out from above and slammed his fist into his upper torso, sending him flying at a very high speed toward the ground. When the Nuke Nin's body hit the ground, it made a big hole under him. He couldn't do anything. He had broken all of his ribs and damaged several organs inside his body with just one punch. The shark sword was trying to heal Kisame as quickly as possible while it still had the chance. Naruto's arms got bigger in the air, and his hands changed into the shape of two big fox heads with no eyes or fur. When both heads opened their mouths, they showed a set of very sharp teeth. Naruto tried to charge up his Bijudama again, but they were stuck in the mouths of both of his fox hands. As the Amaris got bigger, they were squished down until they were about the size of baseballs. As a Biju would, both fox heads clamped down on them. There was even more swelling in both of Naruto's arms than before. Steam was coming out from between his jaws. Naruto charged up his Bijudama, but Kisame didn't just lay there. He used Suiten. Great exploding water colliding wave to make a big bubble of water around Naruto that is still growing. The two fox heads opened their mouths at the same time, and a bright beam of red and black energy shot out of each one. Bijudama. Twin barrel foxes cry. Naruto yelled as the two beams hit the growing water ball. It almost happened right away, as water and steam came out in a big explosion. The two beams went through the water dome to get to their goal below. It seemed like Kisame was always taking in more of the chakra that Samahata had turned into water to feed his jutsu. It looked like Samahata shrunk as Kisame took more and more chakra. As their energy ran out, the two beams started to spread out and become less dense. Once as big as a mountain, the huge ball of water was now only a tenth of its original size. Naruto frowned when he saw that his attack hadn't hit its mark. Both of his arms went back to normal, and he looked down at the orb that had broken apart after his attack was over. This meant that Kisame had stopped turning chakra into it. When Naruto turned his back to the ground and pushed off with his legs, he fell like a bullet toward Kisame. When Kisame saw the Hokage coming, she was able to jump away from where Naruto had landed and watch as big chunks of earth were ripped apart by the impact. Kisame barely had time to catch his breath before Naruto shot out of the dust cloud and toward him. Shortly before the blonde was about to punch, the Nuke Nin switched places with a big rock, which Naruto's punch crushed. When I looked around, the battle had moved to the beach, and Kisame was standing on the water with Samahata on his back. Around Kisame, 10 water clones came out of the water and charged at Naruto. Naruto didn't pay much attention to them. Naruto thought this was not nearly as exciting as fighting Hashirama in the Valley of the End, where he was having new statues of both Madara and Hashirama made. The people in the village insisted that he get his own statue to show that he was just as important as the founders of Konoha. While Naruto was against this, Hiruzen, Danzo, and Jiraiya voted in favor of it, beating him in the vote. Naruto ran at the 10 clones that were coming at him and started fighting them. Naruto landed a right hook right away, breaking the head of the first clone. He then spun around and hit the side of another one with enough force to break bones. When another one tried to hit Naruto from behind, one of its tails turned and went right through him. Naruto turned to his right and hit a clone in the chest with his palm, making it blow up. He thought, 4 down, as he saw 2 clones, one from each side, coming at him. With a smirk, he made 2 of his tails wrap around the fake Samahata. Then he picked up both Kisame clones and slammed them into each other. The last 4 hit him at the same time, but they came from different directions. The last 4 clones were wiped out with Naruto's one word, Shinra Tensai. He stood still and waited for them to get close. Suiten. Super Shark Bomb. Kisame yelled, and a huge water shark appeared behind him. As soon as Kisame thrust his hands forward, the huge water shark shot at Naruto. Naruto narrowed his eyes as the attack came at him. Guy had told him that when he fought Kisame, the jutsu that was being used against him could absorb it and make it stronger. But he had a secret plan. As the jutsu was about to hit him, Naruto pushed his hand into it and began absorbing it faster than Samahata could. Normally, this would be hard for him since he hadn't mastered this path yet, but Kisame was only using the chakra that Samahata had stolen from him, so he was just putting his own chakra back into his body. Naruto quickly made another Bijudama that was about the size of himself. It then turned into a cone shape and was aimed at Kisame. Kisame put chakra into his legs and jumped high into the air, but Naruto made a sign with one hand that made the Bijudama explode in a huge explosion. Kisame held Samahata close and made a shield. Like dome of water around him when he saw that he was close enough to the explosion. Naruto's tails flew all over the place as he watched the dome grow. Naruto saw Kisame lying in the water. He had third-degree burns all over his body, and his left arm was completely gone. Kisame turned his head to see Samahata standing next to him. He couldn't believe how big the sword had gotten in just one attack. It was now about 10 times bigger than him. He reached out and grabbed the handle of the sword, then began to drain chakra back into his body. As Kisame slowly stood up, his third degree burns turned into second degree burns, which were less painful but still painful. His left arm was slowly healing as he said, "I have to say that I have never been pushed to this level. But it's time to end this," the man with blue skin said as Samahata began to merge into his right arm. The Godem Hokage watched as Kisame got bigger and looked more like a shark. Naruto teased, "Bring it, Sushi-chan." But his voice stayed bored. Kisame charged at Naruto with newfound speed. Naruto dove out of the way of the attack and delivered a powerful punch to Kisame's stomach that made the nuke nin's digestive system melt. Kisame's lower back bulged out for a second from the force of the punch. Naruto then hit Kisame with a left uppercut that broke his jaw and sent him flying through the air, leaving a trail of blood behind him. Naruto then pulled out Juuchi Yosamu and Iwagakure and threw them at Kisame. The two legendary swords went through Kisame's chest and punctured both of his lungs. Naruto smirked as he walked up to Kisame and pulled out his swords while moving them around. This left the Shark Man with two huge cuts across his torso. The force of Naruto's pulling out his swords from Kisame's body turned both of them so that Naruto was facing the ground and Kisame was facing the sky underneath him. Kisame's screams of pain resounded through the air. Naruto's eyes were filled with power as he covered the Juuchi Yosamu with a black yin chakra and the Iwagakure with a white yang chakra. "Onmyoten," Naruto said as he raised both swords into the air above him. The auras around them grew very large and began to wrap around each other, making what looked like one huge sword that was at least 3 times as tall as Naruto. Kisame was thrown to the ground by a huge wave of black and white chakra. She then exploded in a dome-shaped explosion that looked like a bijudama that had gone off. When the smoke cleared, Samahata, which had shrunk back to its original size and was stuck in the middle of the crater, was the only sign that Kisame had been hit. Godem put both of his swords away and floated down to where Samahata was. Naruto reached out and grabbed the handle of the sentient sword. Samahata began to move around wildly and make growling noises. Then, as Naruto's chakra entered its body, it began to purr like a cat. Since it hadn't attacked him, he thought it accepted him as its new master. To make sure Kisame wasn't hiding inside, he checked it out with his Tengen. When he did, he saw Mei and Zabuza carrying the body of the former Mizukage. He had forgotten that Yagura was on his way to meet the Akatsuki members, so he thought that Mei and Zabuza had killed the Mizukage in battle. Naruto put Samahata over his shoulder and said, "Well, it looks like this war is over." The other two nodded, and the three of them walked back to Kiri. Naruto sighed as he walked out of the shower that was built into the room that Mew gave him. Mew had become Mizukage after a long fight with Zabuza. But the swordsman was the only other person who could do the job, and in the end, they fought to see who would be Mizukage. Mei easily won with her Kekkei Genkais. Even though Zabuza was faster and stronger, Mei's Futon and ninjutsu in general were too dangerous for Zabuza to even get close to. It was a sign of friendship between his village and Kiri that he tried to give Samahata back to Kiri, but the sword always found its way back to him. Mei chose to let Naruto keep it because it would show Konoha that Kiri trusted them with a valuable piece of national history. In the past few days, it had been hard to get the elders who had chosen to side with Mei over death to agree to join the alliance between Konoha, Kumo, and Suna. They fought for 3 days, and during that time, Mei told Naruto he could kill anyone, including the elders, even if they said they were on their side. Many of their words and actions during that time said otherwise. Mei and Naruto set up a meeting between them and Gaara once they were out of the way. He also had to deal with Kushina, who had come back to life and decided to go back to Konoha with him when everything was over. When the redhead first met him, she pretended to hate him because he had left her trapped in the King of Hell. But when she realized that he had given her a chance to be with her daughter, she gave him a hug that was so hard it almost killed him. The habanero and the new Mizukage were shopping like crazy because Mei hadn't been able to do that in years because she was dead. Izumi was getting better after her fight with him, so he agreed to watch her. He healed her eyes to the state they were in before the massacre by using his chakra. This was a big deal because she had used it so much over the years. No one could get into the room while he was taking a shower because he had sealed it off. The blonde took off his towel and broke open the door to Izumi's room to check on her. She was sitting up on the bed and looking at him, which caught him off guard. Oh Izumi. Chan, how are you doing? As Naruto smiled at her, he asked. He had forgotten that he was only wearing a towel. Izumi turned red and turned away when she saw what he was wearing. She thought about what he did to her during the battle and how it made her feel. Thank you, I'm fine, she told Naruto with a small smile. Thank you so much for getting me out of the Akatsuki. I have nothing of value to give you in return. But I could give you one thing. She said this as she took off her clothes and showed off her beautiful naked body. Outside, a big man with spiky white hair was lying in a pool of blood at the base of a tree. He thought, this kid is my only chance to get to the top of the charts. Before his world went dark from lack of blood. This coming week, people from Kiri and a few other nations, along with Naruto, Mei, and Gaara, stood in front of a huge crowd. Darui, Killer Bee, Tamari, who was blushing while looking at Naruto, Gaia, who was as calm as ever but had a faint pink powder on her cheeks as she looked at Naruto, Kankuro, who was looking at Mei's bust, Zabuza, Aoi, and Danzo, who had come all the way out to make sure nothing went wrong, were all in the crowd. He took a step toward the front of the stage. Kiris and people from other countries who come to visit. Today is a good day. Now that the rebels have won, we should sign a treaty that will bring Kiri and Mizu no Kuni into our alliance with Suna, Kumo, and Konoha. As a first step toward peace, this will help stop the killing between countries. This treaty will make it easier for our countries to trade with each other and for missions to happen between villages and teams made up of people from all of our countries. This treaty also makes sure that every village has the things it needs to stay alive in a steady stream of missions. We will work together to make the world and Kiri a better place. He told the people who look at his words. The people there cheered and praised him when he was done. He killed an army, and many people in Kiri called him a hero. News of him beating 2S rank nukes who were going to help Yagura spread like a tsunami across the country. He would make a great husband. He's also really cute. Mei thought as she blushed a little at the thought of the Hokage. She might be able to help them get married. If a marriage between clan heirs or important people in the village could make a treaty stronger, then a marriage between cages would make it 1,000 times stronger. After the treaty was signed, Naruto and Danzo sat down at a table to enjoy the party. Well, that went well, you old warhawk? He said this to the man with the bandages, who was smiling if you looked closely. He liked Naruto better when he was Hokage. The blonde had done a lot for the village since he became Hokage. It was stronger than ever because he brought back the training regiment that Tobirama had set up but the civilians had let go of. The most recent graduates of the academy got better grades than most of the classes that came before them, except for Naruto's, which was full of clan heirs and got lower grades. Also, it was because of him that his root division could be sent out without being hidden from the Hokage. That's right. For someone so young, I'm amazed at how much you know about politics. If someone fought Madara Uchiha and beat Hashirama Senju not long ago, I shouldn't expect anything less from them. He said this before taking a drink of his sake. Before Mei came up to them, they were still talking about some unclassified plans they had for Konoha. Mizukage. Dono, what do we owe this pleasure? It was a political party, after all, and Naruto was polite enough to ask. The 4 daimyos in the alliance had even left their palaces to come. The smile he was giving her made Mei blush because it made her think of a fox. To make things clear, Mei told everyone to make an announcement. Attention everyone please. Everyone looked at her as she called out. Thank you everyone for coming. If not for the Hokage of Konoha, this might not have happened at all. Zabuza cut her off. Minato namikaze. Everyone cheered, and Naruto and Mei both gave each other a death glare. Bebuzz. Don't talk, or I'll kill you. Both of them said it in too much of a sweet voice. It looked like Zabuza was busy doing something while his skin turned pale quickly. As I was saying, Naruto namikaze. Another round of cheers followed as Mei went on. Furthermore, I have a very important announcement. Everyone had to be quiet to listen. I have decided to propose a marriage contract between myself the Mizukage and the Hokage himself Naruto namikaze as to build an even stronger bridge between our 2 villages. Everyone looked at Naruto, who looked shocked, before she was done. What did he plan to do? If he said yes, he was going to get married. If he didn't, it would be the worst thing that could happen to Mei and her village, and it might ruin their new relationship. When he was put on the spot, Danzo looked at him with some sympathy and said, I accept the marriage proposal. Then Mei kissed Naruto on the cheek, leaving a dark blue lip mark. This made everyone go crazy. "We'll hold the marriage tomorrow." She skipped away, happy that she was finally getting married before she turned 30, which is what she had hoped would happen. "What just happened?" he asked Danzo. The question came from Naruto, who was still trying to understand what was going on. "Well, you just agreed to marry the Mizukage Mei Terumi tomorrow and basically solidifying an alliance between Konoha and Kiri beyond anything the other one could do." He talked like nothing happened and drank the rest of his sake. "That's what I thought," Naruto said before he passed out and hit his face on his plate. The next day. Today had to be the most dangerous day of Naruto's life. Not even facing Madara could make Naruto feel as nervous as he did right now. They were going to get married today because she asked him to last night. Naruto felt like everything happened too quickly, but he was impressed by how quickly everything was set up. Everything was ready for the wedding, from the decorations to a life-sized ice sculpture of him and Mei holding hands. It was even worse because Kushina was there staring at him. He had Gaara and Danzo sitting next to him. Gaara was the best man. The two of them were dressed alike, but Gaara wore a red shirt with his black suit. While A was in his cage robes, Danzo wore his normal clothes. The minister Kami helped him. He could hear music starting to play in front of him as Zabuza led Mei down the aisle. Since she didn't have any living family, the man was like a brother to her. Naruto almost passed out when he saw how beautiful Mei was in her dress. When it got to the altar, he said the traditional wedding lines, and then he asked Mei if she accepted Naruto as her husband. She smiled and said, "I do." Naruto was once again the center of attention. "Don't mess this up. Do not mess this up. Don't mess this up." "Naruto Namikaze, do you take Mei Terumi as your wife?" Inquired. The Naruto said, "I do." The crowd was quiet for a moment before they broke out in cheers and claps for the two. Mei gave Naruto what had to be the sexiest and most passionate kiss he had ever given, and she pretty much mouth-raped him for 5 minutes. "Welcome to the family, I guess," Naruto said nervously as she pushed them away. For a week, no one saw them. After everything calmed down, Naruto, Danzo, Izumi, Kushina, and 200 Root Anbu hid their identities and hurried to the gates of Konoha. When they arrived, the village was on high alert, and several Anbu were already there. What the hell happened? Naruto made a move. Kiri already had a lot of problems, and he didn't need any more when he got back from war and got married out of the blue. Hiruzen walked up to them and looked a little pale. "Hokage Sama, how was the war?" The old man asked Naruto, who looked at the man with narrowed eyes. What happened?" he asked Naruto. As he took a deep breath, he said, "Orochimaru's elite shinobi took Sayuri hostage last night around midnight." He told Naruto this, but Naruto just stared at him without being upset. "And what did you do about it?" Naruto asked, but there was no emotion in his voice at all. He looked like he was still thinking about what he had heard. "I asked Inuko Inuzuka, Neji Hyuga, Choji Akamichi, Narumi Namikaze Uzumaki, and Shikamaru Nara to find them and bring Sayuri-chan back. As a backup, Rock Lee has also been sent after them. We tried to get in touch with Suna but haven't heard back yet." It was Hiruzen who told the group, who had just stood there before. At that moment, he saw Kushina there, her hair flying all over the place. He would have been scared of her, but Naruto's form was filled with a black and red flame. Like aura that made him feel safe. "Hiruzen-san, I'm going to save Sayuri-chan. When I get back, make sure everyone is okay. I'm gonna kick your behind into a mountain." Naruto said this before going away quickly. "I'm going to see my daughter no matter what," said before she went after Naruto. "Sayuri." Naruto's voice was heard for many miles. When the Sound Four heard the angry Hokage's voice, they stopped close to the edge of Hai no Kuni. "We have to hurry." Before 5 Konoha shinobi landed in front of them, a man with many arms spoke. "Shit." Before he and Hashirama turned it into a crater, this place was the Valley of the End. Kushina came over to watch the two girls fight. Naruto thought this kind of thing would happen. In most cases, a seal made by humans would never be as good as his own, but the curse seal had one weakness. The curse seal used an enzyme that took in nature chakra from the air naturally and lowered it so the user could get to it. Being a Juubi made him weak in some ways, and Senjutsu was one of them. Naruto looked down at the battle and thought, it looks like the curse seal built up enough sage chakra to cancel out my own seal. It was too late for him. The battle was already at its height. She was in the Three Tails state, and Sayuri was in the second curse mark state. Both looked pretty hurt, but they were ready to fight. He was met by Kushina, who got there a short time after him. Naruto quickly disappeared after saying, I'm stopping them. Sayuri glared at her best friend, and her friend glared back. Then they started to feel bad for each other. Naruto stepped in between them just as they were about to hit each other. He grabbed their fists and threw them to opposite ends of the crater. Hi, Naruto. They both thought this at the same time as they straightened out in the air and landed on the water that covered the valley of the end's floor. Naruto tried to talk sense into his lover, Sayuri-chan, who was having a bad time because of the curse mark. Enough with this. Please just come back with us to Konoha. I'll explain everything once we get home. He was going to get the curse mark off of his girlfriend no matter what, even if it meant death. She gave him a fanged smirk and said, sorry Naru-kun, but this power that Orochimaru-sama has given me is unlike any other I've ever felt. I feel invincible. Sayuri used hand signs to breathe a stream of fire at Naruto. He took the hit without a single flinch. When the Uchiha saw Naruto take the whole attack without moving, she took a step back. He looked back at Narumi with a smirk and said, Naru-chan, please let me handle this. He then turned back to his base form. If you think this little boost from Orochimaru will help you beat Itachi, then you're an idiot, Sayuri. Narumi tried to follow Naruto, but golden chains sticking out of the ground stopped her. A woman's voice said from behind her, Naru-chan, everything will be okay. As she was being hugged. Ka-chan is here for you now. I saw a woman with violet eyes and long red hair. Narumi slowly turned her head to look at her. Not at all. This can't happen. She told herself this in her head. Why would her mom be here? She hadn't been alive since the day she was born, but there she was, a woman who looked exactly like the ones in all the pictures they left behind before they died. The younger Uzumaki said, Ka-chan? But it was hard to hear. It was clear to Kushina that her daughter was beginning to cry. She glared at the blonde who was talking to the Uchiha heiress and said, that's right Naru-chan, Ka-chan is back thanks to that jerk over there. Narumi laughed at the way her mother talked about her boyfriend before she passed out. The blonde girl said, hey Blondie. I'm taking Naru-chan back to the village. Come back in one piece, or I'll take that title of Hokage for myself. She then jumped away. Sayuri growled, you could bring the dead back to life? Why didn't you ever use that to bring my mother back? You've always loved Narumi more than me. She then charged at Naruto, who looked a little down after hearing what she said. Was it true that he pretended to love Narumi more? Sayuri tried to stab the blonde with a kunai, but the blonde dodged and jumped back. That's not true. Don't let the curse mark change you. Naruto said as he took in Sayuri's big fireball. He was sure he could beat her, but it didn't seem like it would help right now. He had to get rid of that curse mark without hurting her. She screamed, nothing is affecting me. And then ran at him with a Chidori. Naruto growled as he threw her by the arm. Sayuri turned around in the air and shot the Hokage another stream of flames. Before drawing the Iwagakure, Naruto used Samahada to soak up the jutsu. He held the sword in his hands and felt a soft green glow. He could almost feel the sword telling him to trust its power. He told himself, Iwagakure, lend me your power. His sword's blade pulsed with power. As the Uzumaki's eyes snapped open, a new set of eyes appeared. Naruto's eyes now had 4 rings of light lavender around the pupil and a pale lavender background that covered the whole eye. Madara's eternal Mangekyo Sharingan was in the first ring. With his new eyes, he could see Sayuri's chakra coils and points. He could also see a second chakra system inside her that started where the curse seal was and went all the way through her body. His general vision had also gotten a lot better compared to what it was before. It made Sayuri take a step back when she saw Naruto's new eyes. They gave off a little more power than his old ones did. She was afraid of them because they made her think of the day Izumi died, but she also thought they were beautiful. That makes sense. The second set of chakra coils is sending the chakra from the curse mark all over her body. He thought to himself, I get it now. Then he used his left hand to draw Juchi Yosamu. It led to bloodlust, which made the sword pulse and glow red like blood. Behold the Iwagakure. Tei and the Juchi Yosamu, let me show you their power. Naruto cut Sayuri's left arm with Iwagakure. Tei so quickly that she barely had time to move. The cut left a glowing green line. The pain in Sayuri's hand and arm up to the cut went away, and she screamed. Iwagakure. Tei is a sword that can only kill bad things and heal good ones. I cut the chakra coils that came from the curse mark on your left arm with it. Before Naruto could finish, he saw a big fireball coming straight at him. He swung at Juchi Yosamu with a smirk, ending the attack completely. And then with the Juchi Yosamu, a sword that will cut and destroy anything, whether it be good or bad, sentient or not, anything and everything will be cut by this blade. Even elements like fire will fall at its blade. The blonde Hokage jumped out of nowhere and was right in front of Sayuri in less than a second. He then kicked her high into the air. The Uchiha spun around in the air and let out a few medium-sized fireballs that looked like shark heads. The great Hokage smiled and cut them all in half with his dark sword before disappearing. After that, Sayuri was being cut a lot by something she thought was Naruto but couldn't be sure because she couldn't see what was moving. There were thin green cuts all over her body. Sayuri's body went back to normal as she fell into the water, and the cuts healed quickly. Right before she fell, she was able to focus enough chakra to stay above the water. She looked up and saw Naruto standing in front of her like a mad god. He held Iwagakure Tei to her head and sheathed Juchi Yosamu. I forgot to say that this blade can also cleanse the soul of any darkness that is put on it. It's time to end this, the blonde said as she pushed the blade into the Uchiha. From afar, Kushina could see a big column of green light coming from where the Valley of the End used to be. As she got to the gates of Konoha, she thought, I wonder what he did. Naruto and me. As Sayuri slept in his arms, the blonde stood on the water that covered the battlefield. When the Uzumaki saw that the curse mark was gone for good, he smiled. Okay, it's time to go back to Konoha. And they were gone. After 3 days. Hiruzen, who had been called God of Shinobi and Sandaime Hokage, was now dressed as a garbage man and picking up trash from the ground of Konoha's biggest park. This was his punishment for messing up and letting Sayuri get kidnapped. He had to clean up the park every day for the next week. It was free labor for Konoha and public humiliation for him. Kakashi and Jiraiya also had to do their punishments. Naruto worked hard to protect Konoha and find and kill as many spies as he could in the village. His human path helped him find a lot of spies by taking in the souls of 3 Sound 4 members. The only one he didn't kill was Tayuya, who was in the same situation as Sayuri and was controlled by Orochimaru in this world. 4 shinobi from an enemy village broke into and kidnapped a clan heiress, but a group of genin were able to stop them. He had a stern meeting with all of his jonin and anbu to tell them how shameful it was that the 4 chunin or jonin level shinobi had just walked into and out of the village without being seen until hours later. The old man with the bandages said, I came to pick up the assignments for my root anbu. Naruto looked up from his never-ending stacks of papers and saw the man. You seem to be hard at work, Hokage. Sama. Naruto picked up a thick folder from his desk and said, yes, your route will have more missions since I'm sending most of the anbu to protect the village. The missions I'm giving you are all A or S. One of these missions is to find Orochimaru's hiding place and let me know right away. After what he did, I won't let that jerk live, Naruto said as he began to ki the wooden floor and desk. Danzo took the file and left the office. Naruto watched the man leave and then looked back at the papers. Junk, 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 oh Bikini Friday. Approved, junk, junk, here we go, Naruto said as he looked at the scroll that said, Tsunade. When he opened it, he saw several hundred pictures of the blonde beauty naked in hot springs. Jiraiya. Naruto roared. Far away in a town a few miles from Konoha, a pervert shivered in fear. Damn it. I guess I'll just go find her myself and maybe get to kill that stupid snake. He then spent the rest of the day giving the go ahead to dump a number of village requests. Being on his way home, he couldn't help but think about how Sayuri had told him that he loved Narumi more than her. It had hit him hard, and it hadn't left his mind since. After a moment of thought, the blonde had a brilliant idea. He ran into the Uchiha compound and went into the temple where the dead were buried. After looking for a while, he finally found the body of Makoto Uchiha, Sayuri's mother. Naruto waved his hands a few times and then called out, "Naraka Path." The King of Hell's hand. Like tongue grabbed the body and pulled it into itself, making the Hokage smile. The king then opened his mouth again and put a revived Makoto Uchiha in front of him. "How do you feel about what you're doing?" From behind the blonde, a scary voice spoke. When Naruto turned around, he saw the Shinigami, who didn't look happy. "Do you know how hard it's going to be to fix what you just did? You did it with Kushina Uzumaki and Makoto Uchiha too. I'm going to have to do an insane amount of paperwork." The god was mad that he had to do more work because the blonde did something stupid. Naruto laughed and said, "Sorry." He scratched the back of his head. Following a growl, the god of death let out a sigh and said, "Just don't do it again with souls that have been dead for a while." It's one thing to take in souls that have been dead for a long time, but it takes a lot of work on my part to erase what they know about the pure world, the god said as he faded away. "What is Minato?" The Hokage heard from behind him. The formerly dead Uchiha looked as if she had just woken up from a nap. "What's going on?" She looked very confused. She knew Minato had died years ago, but here he was, unless this was the afterlife. The Uchiha saw the blonde's eyes and knew right away what the pattern in the middle was from all the scrolls she had read about her clan. "No. My name is Naruto Namikaze and I'm related to Minato," he said. "As for where you are in the Uchiha tomb." "But I passed away. How did you do that?" The Uchiha yelled at him as she stood up. She could see all the dead Uchiha bodies that were starting to rot. "My eyes are strong. The dead are easy for them to bring back to life," Naruto said as he walked to the exit. Makoto stopped for a second and then followed the man who had brought her back to life. "Take me where?" She grabbed his right arm to stop him. Naruto told her, "To see your daughters." The next thing she knew, Makoto was in a hospital room, where she saw her real life daughter sleeping next to her on a chair. "Sayuri." "Hi, Izumi." They woke up when she yelled, "Hi Ka-chan." They both yelled, and all three of them hugged each other. Naruto smiled as he walked out of the hospital and went back to his office to give the three Uchihas some alone time. After 1 month, Naruto stood on top of the Hokage's tower and smiled as he looked out over the village. In the past month, he had killed Orochimaru's informants in Konoha and the other 3 villages that were part of his alliance. This led him to his next goal, which was to get Iwa to join them. This would be very difficult because they were angry at the Hidden Leaf for the last 3 wars, and he looked a lot like the Yondaime Hokage, which made things even worse. "Do you have plans to visit Iwa?" Gaara asked as he walked up behind Naruto in an Shunshin. The Kazekage had come back to Konoha for a meeting with Naruto, and Mei about the Akatsuki, which had already taken both of Iwa's Jinchuriki right in front of their eyes. It didn't help that Iwa wasn't saying anything about it, and they weren't even their allies. He looked back at his friend and said, "I know what you're thinking, Gaara. Yes, I'm going. I'm also sending Jiraiya, Kakashi, Narumi, and Sayuri to find Tsunade and bring her back to Konoha. Could you please watch them? They attacked me in our world during that mission. It was the Akatsuki and Orochimaru. This shouldn't happen again like it did when I left for Kiri," the blonde Biju said. Gaara closed his eyes and said, "I'll send Temari and Kankuro after them. I'm sorry, but I need to be in Suna. A lot of times, my dad tried to make things better in the village, but he couldn't. That's why he invaded Konoha. I've made progress by finding gold deposits deep in the desert, but we still need to train new genin so they are ready to go into active duty. Suna doesn't do D rank missions anymore, so our genin need to be ready for C rank missions with a high chance of survival," Gaara told his brother figure. Heaved a sigh, "That's better than nothing. I'm going with Yugo, Anko, and Kurenai for Iwa. Anko wants to thank me for taking away her curse mark last week, and Yugo insisted on going with me. As for Kurenai, I need to train her. I'm sorry to say this, but she is too weak for Genjutsu. If she's up against an ARS rank, she's doomed. Such as me, a Uchiha, or anyone else who is good at breaking illusions. Even though she is very good at taijutsu, she is only at a high Chunin level because she is weak and doesn't have much stamina. Her ninjutsu is also weak because she learned too few basic ones because she was too focused on genjutsu, even though she knows how to use them. Naruto told his friend, who agreed and nodded. I need to start going back to Suna now. The redhead said, you were always welcome in Suna, then used Shunshin. The next day, Naruto waited for the 3 women who would be going with him on his diplomatic mission to Iwa. He had left Hiruzen to run the village, but told him that if he came back and found it in chaos or something very bad had happened, he would kick Hiruzen into a mountain. We are here. 3 pretty women snuck up on him after hearing Anko yell at them. Yugo wasn't wearing her mask this time because it wasn't an Anbu mission. Naruto told the 3 of them calmly, good, we can leave now. He then left the village and the 3 of them nodded and followed hard behind him. Hyan. Sama, may I ask you a question? What made you want me to come on this mission? Kurenai asked her leader, who waved her on. The Biju sighed when the Genjutsu master asked her that. It's true that you are a skilled kunoichi and earned your title as a Jonin, but you are also too focused on one thing. Your Genjutsu skills are among the best I've ever seen from someone who isn't a Uchiha. You're also very smart. You have great control over your chakras, and your taijutsu style is very refined. The problem is that you always have to avoid and move away from your opponent in order to use your genjutsu. You will probably die if you ever fight an enemy who can negate your jutsu or is too fast for you to avoid, Naruto said in a serious voice. Kurenai stopped moving when she told him she was going to die. She was shocked at first, then mad at the blonde. I knew it. You're just another sexist cook who likes women. She yelled out before covering her mouth. Anko and Yugo gasped. The 3 knew that if the blonde wanted he could have her incarcerated for the rest of her life for something like that. I'm sorry ho. She couldn't finish because a kunai landed in front of her. Naruto looked back at her with his eyes wide open and said, come fight me if you think I'm such a horrible person. The beautiful woman with the red eyes stopped moving in fear as the tailed beast stared into her own eyes. Kurenai looked down at the kunai and then up to see herself chained to a stone cross. She couldn't break the chains no matter how hard she tried. Even though you're very good at genjutsu, this person has you cornered. And with that, everything went back to normal. The Jonin fell to her knees and began to cry. I'm sorry, Kurenai said, upset about how easily the blonde Hokage beat her. He didn't even have to move to do it, and she had no way of knowing about or breaking his genjutsu. He walked over to her and got down on his knees next to her. He wiped her tears away with his thumb and then turned her around to look him in the eyes. Don't be sorry, Kurenai. Chan, I was a bit harsh. He smiled and said, I promise that by the time you get back to Konoha, you'll be strong enough to fight even Kakashin. While blushing, the red-eyed Jonin smiled and nodded, and I promise that I will become stronger. The 4 people in the group then began to walk toward Iwa. Naruto slammed Kurenai into the ground and yelled, move faster. As he did so, the force of the hit broke up the tree where the kunoichi landed. She had a dark purple bruise on her right cheek that was getting bigger quickly. Blood was coming out of her mouth. Naruto stood calmly across from her with a cold look on his face. Kurenai slowly stood up and glared at him. He looked down at her like she was an ant at his feet, and his strange eyes seemed to see right through her. With a kunai in her hand, Kurenai stood up and charged at the blonde. Naruto was pleased with how hard she was at it. He had to agree that the kunoichi was beautiful when she looked nice, but right now she looked like she had just come from a war zone. She was only wearing spandex shorts and a black sports bra because the dress she used to wear was torn to pieces. The cuts on his skin that used to be smooth were now very thin, and her hair that used to be well kept was a mess. As soon as she was close enough to hit him, Naruto grabbed the kunai's blade with his palm down. He broke the blade so hard that it didn't even cut his skin. He then kicked Kurenai hard in the midriff, sending her flying back into the tree she had hit before, but this time the tree fell over. Yugo and Anko winced as they watched as their friend coughed up big globs of blood. He used a Doden jutsu he hadn't used since his first fight with Izumi, so she didn't even have a chance. The beautiful woman with red eyes used a tree to help her stand up again. He smiled when he saw that she wasn't giving up, even though he was beating her so badly. He wasn't happy to push her so hard, but he couldn't have any weak links on any of the teams, and of the 4 Jonin in charge of the clan heirs, she was the weakest so far. Before putting his hand to his mouth, Naruto said, good. The blonde bit him in the body, letting some blood pool out. It had been a long time since he had done something like this. Jackal hunt. He yelled as he slammed his palm into the ground. A cloud of smoke rose from under him, but 3 gold and black blurs quickly spread it out. The Jonin couldn't avoid getting hit by the 3 blurs, who threw her to the ground. Everyone looked at the 3 animals that looked like dogs and growled at Naruto. When the 3 of them glared back at him, Naruto laughed. One of them asked Naruto, "Do you know how long it's been since you called us?" Naruto nervously scratched the back of his head as the 3 jackals got off the Jonin. Naruto said, "Sorry about that, but I've been busy lately." The 3 were then gone in a puff of smoke. While walking over to the downed Kunoichi and smiling at her, Naruto picked her up and took her to the 2 tents he had set up away from where they had been fighting. He told her, "You did good, now rest." As she and Anko followed the blonde into the tent, Yugo said, "I think you pushed her a bit too far." Naruto put her on top of a blanket and put another blanket over her. As he left the tent, the other 2 women looked at him and sighed. "Look, I can't say much, but soon an enemy will come and I want everyone to be ready for the battles that will happen. I'm sure you 2 have heard me and those old guys talking about a group called the Akatsuki, right?" Yugo nodded while Anko seemed a bit when Naruto saw that the snake user was confused. He decided to explain a little more. The Akatsuki is a group of 9 missing nin from across the elemental nations. Each of them are capable of mass destruction and death. 2 of them are no longer in the group. I killed Kisame Hoshigaki during my mission in the Hidden Mist, while the other is Izumi Uchiha, who was once known as Itachi Uchiha. Naruto informed the 2. After Izumi went back to the village, everyone knew what had happened with the Uchiha family and that Itachi was really Izumi. It would be too mild to say that the village was shocked by everything that happened. Sayuri was the most shocked. Normally, she would have been against the idea, but his sword had kept her calm and helped her understand what had happened. He couldn't help but smile when the 2 of them got back together, which made her cry even more when he brought their long dead mother back to life. Adding so much paperwork to the Shinigami's table may have made him mad, but it was worth it to see the 3 female Uchihas so happy that they could finally be a family again. As the Hokage, Izumi had given Sayuri long vacations and was free most of the time, so she offered to help train her whenever she could. He felt it was the least he could do to make up for the time she wasted in the Akatsuki. He learned from some of Danzo's spies that both the Jinchuriki and the Akatsuki were now after him. It turned out to be both good and bad news. It was a good thing because it meant they would pay more attention to him than to the other Jinchuriki. But Konoha now had a huge target on its back, with the Kyuubi, Nibi, Nanabi, and for now the Ichi all there. That's why he had to get the 5 nations to work together against the Akatsuki right away. He didn't want another war to start that would kill a lot of people. It was easy for him to beat almost anyone if he really tried, except for another Juubi or a Jinchuriki of a Juubi. It was lucky for him that Gaara was able to take over Suna as Kazekage while the group was in a panic over the death of their leader. Usually, it would have taken him months or even years to earn their trust. But Konoha and Kumo's help, along with the way things were in the village, made it much easier. The A had been surprisingly a lot chillier than the one in his first world. Because they were thankful that the mist brought back an army and looked after the 2s rank shinobi who were joining the Mizukage's side. He was also tricked into getting married, but that wasn't a bad thing. What could he say? Mei was smart, strong, and had a great personality. She was one of the most beautiful women he had ever seen. Yegao asked, "So what do we do now, Hokage?" Sama? Since this was a business trip, she felt she had to treat him with the respect that came with his position, which made the blonde mad. Naruto gave her a light glare and sighed. "Well, I sent a jackal to Iwa telling him we would be there in a few days. I guess until Kurenai wakes up we should at least train a bit," he said with a fox like smirk. Only as the 2 kunoichi began to move away from him did 2 clones appear behind them. Naruto said, "Come on, let's go," and his clones pulled the 2 of them into a field before disappearing. They ran, but they ran into a wall they couldn't see. Anko yelled, "The hell!" As she hit the wall hard to break it down and get away from the blonde and the training he was going to do with them. Naruto smiled behind them in a way that was almost poisonous. "Are the 2 of you trying to skip out on a bit of training? To think that my bodyguards are such cowards. I bet Oniki Dono will laugh at me when he meet you too," Naruto said as he shed crocodile tears. The other 2 people looked at him like he was crazy. They had seen how Kurenai turned out after his training, where he just kept attacking her and telling her to dodge and attack back. Naruto said to the two who had stopped banging on the barrier and were thinking about it, "How about this? I promise to only use summoning jutsu and Jinten." Anko turned around with her head slouched forward and sighed. "We accept." Before he could say anything else, a golden black dog tried to bite her head off. "Hey, I wasn't ready." She yelled like a child as she dove out of the way of the attack, but Naruto quickly appeared in front of her and hit her in the face with an uppercut. When the women turned into a log in a puff of smoke, Naruto smiled. The Hokage jumped back when he felt something under him rise up. It turned out to be a big snake. He caught a glimpse of Yugo coming at him from the side with her sword drawn. Out loud, Naruto said, "Jinten. Extreme movement." He then appeared next to Yugo so quickly that he left a trace. The blonde didn't attack her. Instead, she hit her behind hard and then disappeared. Few meters away, Naruto appeared with a smirk on his face. Several dozen snakes came at him from the side, and he had to dodge them. He turned around and saw Anko holding out her hands while snakes kept coming out of them. Naruto yelled as he slammed his palm on the ground. "You're not the only one who can summon." An enormous jackal came out of a cloud of smoke and began to tear the snakes apart with its teeth and claws before eating them. She yelled at him to get his attention when she saw Yugo picking up the sword she had dropped when Naruto spanked her. "Hey. Do you know how mad the Snake Clan will be when they find out I mostly fed their members to a big dog?" During its meal, the big jackal summon stopped and gave the special Junin a mean look. When Naruto saw his summon look away from the snakes and toward the person who called it, he said, "You shouldn't have said that." From the corner of his eye, he saw Yugo speeding toward him. It shocked him because he had never seen it happen before. While the jackal came at Anko, Naruto chose to play with the pretty girl with purple hair. The blonde dodged her attack, swept her legs out from under her, and then, softly, punted her away. Anko called up a bigger snake to fight the big dog, but Naruto's call snapped at it with strong jaws and cut off the tip of the snake's tail. The jackal felt pain and anger as her summon hissed and wrapped itself around it. To Anko and the snake's surprise, the jackal showed that its upper body was humanoid, like the Kyuubi's. This let it grab the snake before it could try to pull it off. While Naruto's jackal howled in pain, the snake summon bit into its flesh to get back at it. The golden back summon fed up with the snake and used its hand, like paws, to bring a piece of it closer to its jaws before biting it very hard. The snake summoning went away right away, leaving Anko alone with the dog, who wasn't having fun with the woman. Yugo tried to attack Naruto, but Naruto dodged it. The purplet tried to cut her leader, and the blonde just touched her whenever he could. It was a beautiful dance of death. They didn't start training until she took off her armor, or the blonde would have torn it apart to get a good look at her small but perky cups. A man with white hair and a strange outfit jumped up and cheered that his student had finally chosen the path of the pervert. He was in heaven or another world. This, however, caught the eye of every female angel in the hot springs he was watching. "Minato, help me!" he yelled as he ran away from a group of angry angels. It seemed like Naruto disappeared again when Yugo tried to cut off his head again. The blonde girl stooped down behind her, and Naruto yelled, "Secret finger jutsu, 1,000 years of death." There was barely time for Yugo to open her eyes before Naruto put his fingers up her behind. The Anbu turned red as the Hokage's body ripped through her pants, letting his fingers grab her behind without any clothing in the way. Yugo's cheeks turned a dark red color as she felt Naruto's hands go deep into her. Yugo didn't fly. Instead, she let out a long moan. The moan didn't help at all when Naruto felt his skin touch hers. He also blushed deeply. Both Anko and the jackal put down their weapons and looked at the two of them. The dog gave Anko a dirty look and then disappeared in a cloud of smoke. While he was away, Anko used the opportunity to wrap several snakes around him, making him so weak that he had to go home. Yugo was running away with her face in her hands, and Anko said with a pout, "Ah, I wish that was me." Naruto had broken down the wall so she could get through. Anko left too when she saw that he was distracted, before he could train her even more. After 3 days. When Naruto and his friends finally got to the Iwa's gates, they were stopped and told they had to wait for the Tsuchikage. The 4 people had to wait outside the gates for 2 hours with the guards, who said sorry several times for their cage's rude behavior. Finally, the 4 of them saw the man floating toward them with a somewhat sad face. Based on what he knew about the other world, He thought the man had hurt his back again when they got there and needed medical help. The old man kept the same serious look on his face as he looked over the 4 Konoha shinobi. Onoki said as she floated back to the village, "I never thought the child would be named Hokage, let alone go to a meeting with another Kage and his harem." The 4 people from Konoha were stunned by what the Kage said. He turned around when he didn't hear them move. He asked, "Are you guys coming or not?" The 4 of them woke up when he asked them a question. "You will be staying in a house we have prepared for you for the next week. I will allow you the use of one of our training grounds but only for taijutsu. You are not allowed to interrupt the work of my shinobi or antagonize the people of Iwa. You have a fridge filled with different types of food and that's it, if you want more or something else it comes out of your pocket," he said firmly. Really, the blonde couldn't blame the older man because, during the war, his father had pretty much wiped out their armies. Naruto was being polite when he asked, "That's fine. Do you mind if we take a day to get settled in?" He knew that Iwa and Konoha didn't get along well because they had been at odds with each other in almost every war up to that point. The old man said, "Fine. Meet me tomorrow at 8 a.m. sharp in my office." Then he began to float up into the air toward what he thought was his office. It made Naruto sigh as the 3 kunoichi led him to where they were going to stay. Naruto said to himself in a sarcastic voice, "This is going to be fun." After 4 days. Iwa has been nervous for the last 4 days if there was a single word to describe how she feels. The 2 Kages had been at odds with each other for 4 days, every day for hours on end. People in the village could sometimes hear them yelling as they argued about the alliance the Hokage was trying to make or about other things that made many of them sweat. Office of Onoki. Naruto yelled at the old man, who growled at him, "Are you kidding me? The Princess Gale movie was so much better than the Icha Icha movie." He yelled back at the blonde, who blushed, said the guy who starred in it with that silver-haired chick. He did agree with the perverted sage that she should be in his movie, and he asked Kazumi to be in it because she told him it was her dream. He thought she would like it, so he told Jiraiya about it. The 2 didn't really have sex in the movie. They just pretended to or had stunt doubles do it for them. Yes, they kissed a few times while filming, and the pervert made him grope her, but they never went all the way because they were just friends. There was no sex between Naruto and the older, weaker Kage. "Don't bring Kazumi-chan into this. I only did it as a favor to Jiraiya," Naruto yelled back. He was sick of everyone thinking that he and the woman who worked for his sensei were having sex behind closed doors. "What? How dare you say that all those scenes were fake? This is ridiculous." The Tsuchikage yelled as he hit his stone desk hard and broke it. Naruto broke out in a sweat when he saw how seriously the old man was taking it. Naruto tried to change the subject from the movie to the alliance by saying, "Can we get back on topic? I didn't really come all the way here to talk about whether I hit my ex sensei." After arguing about everything from food to movies for more than an hour, they were still arguing. Onoki nodded and held up the file scroll that had the treaty's terms on it. "I have no reason to accept this. From what you said, the Akatsuki had only been attacking villages in order to get their Jinchuriki. Our Jinchuriki have already been taken, meaning we have no reason to help you and the other villages protect their Biju," the old man said firmly. When he heard that he wasn't going to fight with Naruto and the other 4 villages, he frowned. Naruto sighed and put his hands together. "Tsuchikage. Dono, please understand that the Akatsuki will not just stop after gaining the 9 Biju. After they get them all, a fate worse than death will befall not only my village, but Suna, Kumo, Kiri, and even Iwa. What will happen will make you wish you had joined when you had the chance," Naruto said strongly. He wanted things to look as bad as they could get so that he wouldn't have to say that he was from a parallel world in the future. "I'm sure that the force of 4 villages is more than enough for you guys to handle this Akatsuki business. And if you fail, then chances are that they would be weakened enough for Iwa to finish them off by ourselves." The old Kage disagreed. He thought that if the Akatsuki were so strong that it would take all the major nations to stop them, then either they would be destroyed no matter what, or they would be able to kill them after the other 4 villages did their part to weaken them. Besides, he had used the Akatsuki's help in the past to make his land bigger. At this point, they had no reason to fight them. Naruto was already mad at the old man for being so rude. Since he was young and from a village that was at odds with the old man's, he already knew that the old man would look down on him. If he had to, he knew he could easily beat any Akatsuki member one-on. one, and maybe even all of them at once. But if they had the Bijus and a reincarnated Madara, it would be hard for him to beat them. He was also stronger than the original Juubi, who, as far as he knew, only cared about destruction and let its power run wild. This was true even though he had better control over his power since the battle with Hashirama. He could go on a rampage and be at that level, but he didn't want to destroy everything around him. Okay, what would you like in exchange for joining our alliance? Naruto wanted to know. He had been trying to convince the man to join him in the other cage out of kindness and common sense, but maybe all he needed to do was play on the man's greed. The Hokage offered to give Onoki something if he joined his alliance. This made Onoki smile. In exchange for Iwa joining forces with Konoha, Kumo, Suna, and Kiri, I want the bloodlines of the Uchiha and Uzumaki from Konoha, the Sanbi from Kiri, the Black Lightning Jutsu from Kumo, and the Scorch Release from Suna. Onoki said with a wide grin. It would be easy for Iwa to become the strongest village if the Hokage agreed. They would have a new Jinchuriki, 2 legendary bloodlines, a Kekkei Genkei, and a way to make lightning stronger. Naruto's eye got bigger before getting dangerously smaller. His desire to kill filled the village with a wave of Ki that made all civilians, genin, and most chunin pass out. The rest of the chunin and almost all junins had visions of their own deaths. After seeing the kid in front of him, Onoki couldn't help but shiver and break out in a cold sweat. The kid was covered in a thick layer of pitch. Black chakra with red lines and symbols all over it. But it was his eyes that really scared him. He knew that the pattern in the interring was the same one that Madara had seen many years before. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. 10 tails appear from behind Naruto, Onoki thought. He told himself, Kami, help me, there was a crater where the 2 cages were, some miles away from Iwa. After Onoki laid out his terms for an agreement, the person he thought was just a snot-nosed child quickly turned violent against him. Going back. What did you say? Naruto yelled as he charged at the cage and grabbed him by the collar. He felt fear, which was something he hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't as bad as when the Hokage suddenly changed into a strange energy form, but being a leader for so long had helped him calm down. I said the cost will be the Uchiha and Uzumaki bloodlines and I will take no less. He couldn't finish because he was thrown out of his own window. The older Kage used his jutsu to fix his mistake and watched as Naruto floated up to him. He laughed weakly and said, I guess I underestimated you, brat. No matter how scared he was going to put on a strong front, even if it meant death. Which it could. He looked at him with narrowed eyes and said, I dare you to say that one more time. It was said by the blonde as her energy cloak flickered like flames. Most of the people in the village were either knocked out by his ki or were too scared to get in the way of a fight between 2 Kage. As they turned it on, wind blew around them. I want the Uchiha and Uzumaki bloodlines. As Onoki made a pale chakra pyramid in his hands, he insisted. Biju Dama. He yelled as he fired a cone-shaped beast ball with a tail at the Tsuchikage. To answer, Onoki fired his own attack. Naruto's attack was stopped by Onoki's power to destroy everything at the subatomic level, but he couldn't block or avoid Naruto's powerful punch that sent him through several houses. That's all. If you will not stop being unreasonable, I will make you join forces with me. Naruto told his fellow Kage, but everyone in the village who was awake could hear him. The 3 women Naruto brought with him watched with wide eyes as their Kage got into a fight with the leader of the village. The house was on the edge of the village. Not long after, a group of Iwa Shinobi surrounded their living space. Your Kage attacked our leader. 3 of you are being held at home until this problem is fixed. If your leader, the Hokage, is found to have tried to kill the Tsuchikage without a good reason, you will be killed. The Iwa Anbu told them. Anko looked like she was going to fight the Iwa Nin, but Kurenai stopped her. Stop Anko. Chan, we're outnumbered. Before she turned her attention to the people who had captured them, she said to her high school friend. It looks like you guys are pretty okay with what's going on. It's not easy for Kages to fight each other. She only said that to get a nervous laugh. But this isn't the first time Tsuchikage has done something like this. We love him and will follow him to the grave. When the 4th Kage came, our Tsuchikage asked for the Ichibi Shukaku and bloodlines from both the Scorch style and the Magnet style. Nibi, Black Lightning, and Storm style were what the Raikage asked for when he arrived. And the Mizukage came to him right before he died and asked for his Sanbi and bloodlines from other people. You could say that Onoki Sama has now angered a kage from each of the 4 villages. The man was a little embarrassed by the name of his kage. Really, the 3 kunoichi from Konoha stopped what they were doing when they heard the short explanation. Let's go back to the battle. The older kage was throwing rocks at Naruto, and he had to avoid them. Take this. That's what Naruto said as he made a black sphere in his hand instead of a Rasengan. The blonde was shocked by the new move that happened by chance when he used his Rasengan. He looked down at his hand. When there was a small distraction, Onoki tried to take advantage of it by throwing a huge rock at the Hokage. The cages on both sides were shocked when Naruto's ball shot forward and grew at the same time. The black matter changed shape and became a huge shield. What was left of the rock that Onoki threw at Naruto after it hit the barrier was nothing but dust. Well, that's new. Naruto muttered as he tried to use the technique again, but this time his Rasengan looked surprisingly plain compared to the colorful ones he had before he became the Juubi. Jinten. Atomic Dismantling Jutsu. The Onoki yelled. A big jutsu in the shape of a cylinder reached out from in front of him but couldn't get through the black barrier. What? The old kage yelled in shock when his jutsu touched but didn't work. Naruto turned his attention back to Onoki as his barrier dropped back into a ball shape and floats behind the blonde. 8 more joined it, and they just stayed behind the Hokage. There's more now? He asked in confusion. He caught a glimpse of another dust-style jutsu coming at him. There was a ball behind him that blocked the attack when he just thought of blocking. He didn't even have to do anything. Great. When Onoki saw that those spheres had blocked his attack again, he muttered. Now he has some kind of barrier. It was something he said as he tried to hit the Hokage without getting hit by those balls. It had already been shown that his strongest jutsu didn't work, and he was sure that most of his Doden jutsu would not be able to get through the shields they made. He couldn't come up with a plan because Naruto jumped out in front of him and punched him back into the air. The blonde, who was still mad and a little lost, charged at Onoki. The Sandame Tsuchikage tried to avoid it, but Naruto grabbed him by the leg and threw him to the ground in the village. Give up now, Onoki. San, if you don't, I'll destroy this village. Naruto said this as he charged up a huge Bijudama and pointed it at Iwagakure. The old man had to give up quickly before any new powers came out of nowhere and hurt him, so he wasn't going to fire it. He was mad at him, but he wasn't going to kill him. Onoki let out a small growl because he was backed into a corner so quickly. He normally wouldn't give up, but the blonde could block his attacks and destroy his whole village with one blow. Oh no. Fine. I give up. He said that while raising his hands. The Juubi smiled and pulled back his attack. And you must join the alliance. Naruto said this as he floated down to Onoki and put out his hand to shake hers. The Tsuchikage mumbled something that wasn't making sense and shook the blonde's hand. Fine. Oh, and one more thing, Naruto spoke as he leaned forward and put his face about a foot from Onoki's. That creepy smile of his spread across his lips and his eyes lit up bright red. If you ever ask me to hand over my loved one, I'll destroy you in the slowest, most painful way possible. Before, he told them to back off. He could see that Orochimaru was paler than Onoki as he watched the blonde walk back to his village. Late that same day, Anko told Naruto again what the village shinobi had told her about Onoki and how he often gets into trouble. Naruto laughed. It was funny how some things changed a little from what he had planned but mostly stayed the same. Gaara told him about Onoki's stubbornness at the summit and how he almost turned him and Mei down as powerful shinobi because they were so young compared to him, especially him. Wait, he's mad at every village's cage? How is this building still there? He laughed, just like Anko. Kurenai and Yugo had gone out to train at night, leaving him, Anko, and a bottle of sake that Onoki had given him as an apology for how he had behaved. He knew the old man had to do it because of his son and granddaughter, which was another difference. Even though Anko's sense of humor was sometimes funny in a weird way, Naruto wouldn't say he wasn't having fun. Well, Orochi. Teme taught her. I need to kill him still, right? While Anko drank the rest of the bottle, Naruto thought it was clear that she was way past tipsy. He woke up when he heard Anko put the bottle back on the table. He tried to pour some into his cup, but all he got were a few drops. Why is the sake always gone? He sighed and said, I'm going to get something to eat. Naruto said as he walked toward the kitchen. He felt something wrap around his whole body after only a few steps. Anko. Chan, really? What? A snake? Naruto asked as he put down a pillow instead of himself. Oh, don't be such a jerk. No changes were made to the original sentence. She said to wrap him up. He raised an eyebrow when her pretty big breasts pushed against his back. Then he saw that the snake summoner wasn't wearing anything under her trench coat and mesh. You know, most guys who try to talk to me are con artists. Not many guys even try to talk to me. I'm not sure if it's because I'm drunk or because you're so pretty, but how about I give you a gift? She said as she licked his cheek. The blonde shivered a little at the thought, but he decided not to act on his baser urges because she was drunk and not in the best mood. Go to bed, Anko. Chan, you're drunk. Naruto said as he freed himself from her grip. While he was leaving, Anko frowned. As soon as she was sure he couldn't see her, she smiled big and went to her room. After a while, Naruto sighed as he took off his clothes and lay down on the soft bed that the Hokage had given him. This bed was much bigger than the other ones they were given in the house. As he closed his eyes and got ready for bed, he said, "What a long day." But when he heard a noise above him, his eyes popped open. He saw Anko fall on him while looking at the ceiling. "Hello, Anko. Chan. You were told to sleep." She said this as he tried to push her off but found that his hands were stuck to the bedposts by snakes wearing strange armor that made their bodies look like chains. Nope, 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 nope. Anko, I'm not interested in that kind of thing. He said this as he tried to break the armor with his sheer strength or take the snake's chakra, but the armor protected the snakes from his chakra. Stealing skills and was holding up against his strength. Had fun? As Naruto sat on one of the rocks outside the village, he heard what was going on next to him. He looked over and saw standing there with Mabui by his side. Mabui, his assistant and wife, was standing next to him. "Hey. San, what are you doing here?" The Raikage was asked. "I was here because I heard you were going to meet with that old man Onoki and wanted to give you a warning, but it seems there are two things I'm not fast in, if you know what I mean." A laughed, and Mabui turned red when she read A's words. Naruto laughed, and then he felt a heavy hand rest on his shoulder. "That wasn't one of my girls you were messing around with, was it?" He asked her with a serious look on his face. What the Raikage said. No, it was Anko. Before he could finish, A hit him with a lightning fast fist that hit a mountain. The blonde dug himself out from under the rocks that had just hit him and glared at the Raikage. What was that for? He yelled at the older Kage, who gave him a mean look. You're getting married, my girls, but you haven't even slept with any of them yet. You're having sex with a kunoichi who isn't even married to you. Please tell my fists what it means. His whole body was covered in lightning armor as he yelled. The rest of the night, Naruto dodged attacks from the Raikage while Mabui watched and cheered for her husband. The next day. It was late at night, and both A and Naruto were tired from chasing the blonde while the Hokage did everything he could to avoid him.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.